Yeah, I mean, I see a very together group. I see a really well-coached team that plays hard, competes on both ends of the floor. You know, I think they have three very dangerous offensive players. George King's the first who stands out. You know, he got 16 and 10 a year ago on us, and he's a do-both guy. He can certainly shoot, but he's very powerful driving to the basket, an explosive athlete. Naaman Wright, who we played when he was with Missouri, can do both as well, can shoot the ball, especially mid-range, gets to the rim. And then McKinley Wright's one of the best freshmen in the country. You know, phenomenal assist-turnover ratio. You can tell that Coach Boyle has sort of let him become the Pied Piper of the team and run their offense. He's extremely athletic. He rebounds on both ends of the floor. So it's a big challenge, you know, being able to compete and be ready to go on Saturdays is a must.
You guys have had some challenging games recently, and you've stood up to the test for the most part. You're second in the country in field goal percentage. How can you explain why this team is shooting so well? Is it just kind of the flow of the team right now? I mean, obviously coaching goes into it, but why is this team shooting so well?
Well, I mean, I think that by and large we're taking good shots. You know, I think when you have an unselfish team that moves the ball, that strikes a balance between post players and perimeter players, I think that when you take good shots, your percentages are going to be higher. And we've done a really good job, especially as of late, pounding the ball into our big guys. They're doing a great job finishing, drawing fouls, and Trey and Kaiser are shooting at a really, really high level. And again, I think the team's playing the right way, and so that's always a challenge to have that continue. But I like what we have so far.
Chris, going back into preseason, was there a moment when you got a sense that Kaiser would be shooting at the level he's shooting at right now?
I mean, I've always felt like Kaiser would shoot the ball well. I think it's important with any good player that they take really good shots. And Kaiser, I think over the course of time has learned what a good shot is and what a rushed one is, not necessarily just for himself, but also just in the context of the game. If we've had a couple possessions in a row that you could say maybe are iffy, maybe a quick three, a turnover, last thing you want on that third possession is the same type of shot. And so he's learned that, and I think the better shots you take, the higher your percentage are that you're going to make them. But he's always been a really good shooter. I think he's playing with a ton of confidence this year.
Kind of like before Kent State, I'm just trying to get an idea of where you feel the team is at right now. Is there anyone that has surprised you to this point, maybe contributed more than you anticipated? I know before the Kent State game you said you don't really make predictions on an individual level anyway going into the season, but is there anyone that's kind of turned your head more than you thought?
Well, I think, Kaiser has rebounded extremely well this year, and I never want to say surprise because I feel like then you're limiting the potential of your players in your own mind. But it's something that he hasn't done as well in his first 2 years as he's doing this year. Same thing in terms of battling against bigger and stronger competition. I think he's taken a step up. I think all of our guys are doing a really good job of staying connected and playing together, playing the right way, and it's been a fun group to coach, but we got a long way to go. I think we can improve in so many different areas, but I wouldn't say that anybody has stood out as a total surprise.
Coach, you kind of talked about the game down low. That seems to be a force, just all the guys, the way they're playing down there. Did something change in that mentality with these guys, early in the season or before the season, where they just kind of all seems like they've taken it on themselves to just be a dominant force collectively down there?
Well, I think each of them bring a different strength to the table. They're not all the same type of player, which makes it a challenge for the defense. I think Coach Mike has done an incredible job of development. I think you also give a lot of credit to each individual player. Tyreek and Sean have put a ton of time into their free throw shooting. But they're playing with a lot of confidence. Their teammates have confidence in them. And, at times we stretch the floor so well with our perimeter firepower that, it gives those guys the opportunity to go one-on-one in the post a little bit more than maybe years past. So I think just sort of a cumulative thing has really benefited our post guys.
It's obviously early in the season. Your guys, you have some veteran guys on this team who have heard all the hype talk before, kind of seeing how it plays out. it's happening again where, guys are saying Xavier's a top 4 team. How much does it help to have guys like Trayvon and JP who've kind of been around and have heard that hype to make sure the team kind of stays level-headed early?
Well, I think it always benefits your team when you have older players that are your best players, are your leaders, in every situation, not necessarily just, worrying about positive publicity or predictions or how other people view our team. And I think that's sort of been the storyline all year, and I've talked about that in the preseason. When you have your oldest players as your best players, as long as they're setting the right example, then you would hope the team would follow and that we'd have good chemistry. And so far so good, and there's a lot to be played out.
Chris, this was especially true after Wisconsin, and I asked you about it. The idea of revenge as a motivating factor going into some of these games, and you put the schedule together, excuse me. So you know as well as anyone that there are opportunities, maybe more than in a given year, to get revenge on teams that gave you guys problems last year. Going into this one, I'll ask you the same thing I asked you before Wisconsin. Do you accept the idea of revenge as a thing your guys can use to motivate them?
I think that's a really strong word, revenge. To me, it's not what it's about. I think it heightens your awareness of how good the program that you're playing is. No competitor likes to drop one and lose to the same team, 2 years in a row. We have competitive guys in our locker room, and so I think that all comes into effect. But Colorado's a lot different team than they were a year ago, and they got us in 2016, 2017. And for us, we have to make sure that we're the more energy-filled, ready to go, competitive team on Saturday. But I think anybody would tell you that when you drop one to somebody, you're competitive. You don't want that to happen again. So I don't know what the exact word or the exact definition of revenge is, but I think that's probably a little bit too strong of a word.
And is anything applicable from last year's game? That you
Sure. They play the same way in terms of their culture of being an offensive rebounding team. George King's an all Pac-12 type of player, so they're going to run a lot of the same things that they did a year ago, and we didn't handle it very well. So we're going to have to be better this time around.